Welcome to the Tilted Halo, the place for women of faith and leadership who know that we're not perfect, yet boldly lead anyway. Whether you serve in ministry, business, or life, this show is here to encourage you, remind you that you're not alone, and help you lead with confidence, gratitude, and God's grace. Now, let's get started. Welcome to another episode of the Tilted Halo. Today, my guest is someone very special to me. Kim Serafini is the founder and CEO of Positive Prime, a neuroscience-based technology designed to help people rewire their minds for success, happiness, and well-being in just 3 minutes a day. A leader in positive psychology, emotional well-being, and accelerated learning, Kim has spent years researching the brain, how the brain can be trained to shift perspective quickly and effectively. Her platform, Positive Prime, combines science-backed visuals, affirmations, and music to promote lasting change in mindset and behavior. Kim regularly speaks on global stages, having delivered keynotes for QUT, the Amazing Leaders Series, and the Best You Expo. She is also the creator of the Nautilus Retreat, a sanctuary for transformation, healing, and deep rest. Kim's mission is to help individuals and organizations change with ease, enhancing mental, emotional, and even financial well-being. Kim's vision is clear: to empower millions to thrive by blending technology, science, and soul. Kim, welcome to the Tilted Halo.
Oh, Reverend Kathleen, that was such a beautiful introduction. Might get you to do that for me all the time. I heard it expressed like that, but it was great, really
Oh,
great.
you're,
It's
you're
a
so
privilege, and honor to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have you. For people who are watching and listening, if Kim sounds a little different, that's because she is down under in Australia. And so the modern technology makes it possible for us to do this across continents and halfway around the world. So it really is an honor to be able to do this with you, Kim.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being with us. We know your time is precious and valuable, and we hope that by the end of this little conversation, you can take some nice, big, deep breaths and just remember who you are, a really gorgeous soul doing your very best
Yeah.
and contributing more, giving generously, caring compassionately,
Mhm.
and actually keeping your hopes and dreams alive.
And we need that these days. There are
We
so
do.
many different factors in our world that are kind of trying to get us all off track at times. And it doesn't matter where in the world we are. There's so much stuff going on. But tell us, before I get into some of that, tell us more about Positive Prime. What is it? And why did you start inventing this thing?
That's an excellent question. Gosh, for over 20 years, I've been involved in what's called the wellness industry. That's like day spas and health retreats and fitness clubs and so forth. I am a qualified therapist. 20 plus years ago, actually more than 25 years ago, I went back and studied what you'd call osteopathy and exercise physiology. But before that, I'd actually been in the corporate world and, really very stressed out in change management consulting,
Uh,
huge international companies coming together in what we called mergers and acquisitions projects,
mm,
integration projects. So I'd been to business school, thought I was pretty fancy. I was dynamic and ambitious, driven, and I lived in London or was based there.
mhm.
And I actually did a lot of work in the United States. And so I'd be traveling back and forth between Philadelphia and New York and Boston to London a lot, like every week for nearly
Oh, wow.
18 months. Yeah, it was intense.
Yeah.
Now, that's kind of fundamental because I wanted to feel calmer, more peaceful. I wanted to actually have, and even though I was young and robust, I kind of looked around me and I saw there were lots of people in my corporate environment who were older than me. And the damage of that intensity leads to things
Ah,
like divorce and distraction and
mhm,
substance abuse, whether that's alcohol or other prescription medication. I just saw this incredible damage and destruction to almost every
mhm.
area of life. And I never wanted to get there. Life has a fascinating way of being ironic. I
Yeah.
know there's a famous song about that, and it's pretty close to the truth, as I've discovered over the last, 3 or 4
Mhm,
decades. Um, when we're young, my grandfather used to say to me, "Youth is wasted on the young," and now I know what he means. So, what is positive prime? Positive prime is something you do for 3 minutes a day at a minimum, and it recalibrates you, it refreshes you, it rejuvenates you, it resets you. And it does so actually because we now understand what happens in the brain as it's
mhm,
influenced by what your eyes see. So I'm just
mhm,
going to explain something super simple. If I was to show you a photograph of a
mhm,
smile,
mhm.
the question is, what happens? Well, your eyes process that,
Yeah.
interact with various parts of your brain, including your visual cortex, and starts to send messages to your body, in particular your endocrine system, so where you produce hormones and neurotransmitters and so forth. And the bottom line is your body and brain think you are smiling. And so you actually have a healthy chemical cocktail occurring inside your brain, inside your
Mhm,
body. Why is this important? Because 99.9% of humans on planet Earth today aren't seeing enough genuine and sincere smiles, smiles that
mhm.
are real
Yeah.
and warm and honest, raw and authentic. And some of us don't exist in environments where it's actually natural to see lots of smiles either, particularly if
Right.
we're in stressed out emergency departments at hospitals, or we're
Mhm,
in aged care facilities where there's a lot of pain, discomfort, drama, anxiety, fear,
mhm.
or we're in schools where there's not enough resources, or we're in families where there's financial struggle. And I could go on. So I'm sure you all
Yeah.
get the picture.
Mhm,
So we now know if I show you a certain number of photographs with what we call scientifically Duchenne smiles, we can actually cause the cascade in your body. It's a cause, not an effect.
mhm,
And so I decided to create essentially an app where you press play on a positive
mhm,
prime session. So, what will you see? You'll see up to 1,000 photographs, but there's a very precise formula. So,
uh-huh,
there are a certain number of smiles. There are also a certain number of other types of images that we now know from a neuroscience point of view. Your brain will actually interact with those images. Now, if you've got AI companion at your disposal, you can go and Google some of these things.
mhm,
Um, what happens if you do a fake smile to yourself, even though you're upset or you're angry?
mhm.
Well, interestingly enough, your brain actually processes that as a smile. It's quite bizarre.
So we can influence ourselves even by looking in the mirror and going,
And the more genuine and sincere. So, how do we do that? We think about what we're
uh-huh,
grateful for. You can smile about the fact that your eyes work perfectly if, in fact, your eyesight is great. Or
mhm,
for, those of us who are more auditory, that your ears work, that you can hear well, or vice versa. So there's
mhm,
so much that we can be truly grateful for. Can we still
right,
move unaided? Can we reach out and be generous and give and contribute to
mhm,
another? Can we help? So I want you to all know that a positive prime session has now been scientifically researched and studied,
mhm,
and we put EEGs onto people's heads, and we did eye tracking, and we tested for skin conductance and heart rate variability.
wow,
Anyway, they're basically instruments that measure what's actually happening when you view this session. Now, session is our word, but you might think of it like a really sophisticated slideshow or like PowerPoint presentation. It's not really, it's flashcards, but it sits inside a special player, piece of software. So every single time you press play, it's reshuffled all of the flashcards.
Right.
Now, you can have images only, but it's way more potent if you also have words. And they're not just mantras or positive statements or affirmations or words of prayer. They're actually stimulation for us to be reflective and for us to actually have an identity transformation around who we remember we are at our core: kind, patient, wonderful, curious, creative, and I could go on.
Right.
And so we know because of all of the research that's been done, all these wonderful studies where we try to examine what makes somebody resilient, what helps them to thrive. What about those people who are flourishing even in the face of something devastating? Is that possible? And if it is, for whom is it possible? And how do we actually recreate that for one another or each other? And essentially, Positive Prime integrates all of the findings of those studies into just one of these sessions. But inside our actual app, it's a platform, it's a piece of tech, right? There are over 300 of these sessions, and our library is growing. And there is content on everything: relationships, grief, trauma, anxiety, nutrition, fitness, cold water immersion if you're into, ice baths, far infrared sauna. I mean, seriously, every single aspect of a healthy life, or what it takes to actually have vitality and energy and for your body to repair itself and to heal well. Whether it's your commitment to your faith, whether it's your devotion to movement as medicine or food as medicine, whether it's laughing with friends, all of that content, those subjects are integrated into Positive Prime.
Wow.
I don't know if that's a great example, but I will tell you this is how I try to explain it to my friends. We go to like a chiropractor maybe if we're feeling a little bit discombobulated, a bit of out of sorts. We're kind of languishing and we want an energy realignment. That's expensive. It doesn't last. It does work, right? If a chiropractor is exceptional, absolutely does work. If the chiropractor is compassionate and exceptional in terms of technically with their skills, it'll work better. So I think Positive Prime is almost a moment for pause where you open the app, you press play, and you watch 3 minutes of one of these sessions and maybe another 3 minutes. And inside our app, we also have lots of goodness, little tips and hints and suggestions and recommendations and tiny little humorous gifs, other little videos that remind you that the most important thing for us to do is to connect with nature and be blessed by the gifts of nature.
Yes.
One of the other of the most important things that you do is you see a sunrise or you see early morning light so that your circadian rhythms are actually influenced so that you sleep better at night. So we have all sorts of, I like to think of them as little lessons, cute little lessons about the value of sleep, why sleep is important, about the value of eating your greens, about the value of laughing with your friends, about the value of reaching out and hugging somebody in a very gentle, honest, genuine and sincere way. So some would argue that a Positive Prime session shouldn't be what's required to help humanity. But the fact is, it is. because we're negatively primed by so much. And so we need
Yeah.
a counterbalance. We need a counterweight.
And we need multiple counterweights for every one negative. So, yeah.
The positive is actually a lot more profound and important. I don't know how to explain this to you, but like you can watch news, which is about wars and famine and environmental disasters,
Mm-hmm.
and we could actually test EEGs, like, we could test your saliva, we could test your eyes, we could test your heart rate variability. And what we know is that's negative priming and it's adversely impacting you and every
Right.
single one of what we would call your biomarkers.
Yeah.
And so I set out to create something that could be useful, beneficial, impactful around lowering blood pressure, helping
Mm-hmm.
people to be less reactive and not so angry, um, helping
Yeah.
people to take a deep breath, helping people to see something from a completely different perspective or angle. Um, and what I know is that a lot of what we offer you could find if you went to see a counselor, a social worker, or a
Mm-hmm.
psychologist or a psychiatrist. But a lot of people who need those kinds of experts often can't afford those kinds of experts. So I wanted to take the wisdom and I wanted to take
Mm-hmm.
the nurturing and actually put it inside an app and make it affordable and accessible. Now, obviously, I've got a big heart. Um,
Yes, you do.
yeah, I'm particularly focused on sharing this with everybody in the world. I
Mm.
fundamentally believe, and we've now got some incredible indications for this statement. So, are you ready? For every $1 deployed in a community, there can be a $90 uplift,
Wow.
and that is simply from positive priming using
Wow.
our app for only 3 minutes a day.
Wow.
Now, I'm going to tell you what that means. It means that 10,000 people in any one city positively priming every day will actually have such a huge and wonderful impact on the healthcare system, on productivity generally, like effectiveness and deficiencies inside workplaces, um, bosses actually being nicer, um, staff who serve being nicer to those who serve. So all of these statements, they've all been tracked and traced
Mm-hmm.
and studied and measured.
Wow.
And I have invited the the people who we should give credit to for these studies to join us at a very special conference in Boston in November
Yeah.
2025.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on when you're listening to this. So there's this extraordinary woman named Dr. Esther Sternberg. And they had all of these wearable devices plus all sorts of other research instruments in workplaces to
Mm-hmm.
determine what really matters in terms of our well-being as it relates to cardiovascular health,
Yeah.
immune health, and I could go on and on and on. And so Dr. Esther Sternberg, who's actually written some amazing books, she's coming to Boston to share what are the insights she now has and what are the recommendations she now has for everyday people everywhere who are really confronted with all of the uncertainty that all of us are facing, and
Right.
most of it now because of what the potential harm might be around artificial intelligence. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so there are potential upsides, but it takes a very well connected humanity. And when I say well connected, I mean to pure, unlimited love. I mean to source
Uh,
energy. I mean to God, right?
yeah.
I believe that humanity connected to pure, unlimited love and humanity focused on inner peace will inform artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms to such a point that it might actually be good for all of us. And if we don't, we're in trouble.
Let's have people take a look at a little bit of a session.
I was just going to say, we work with a lot of people who are thought leaders and experts, people like Reverend Kathleen, to help them to convert their messages as medicine into positive prime sessions. And it is really remarkable. We have the opportunity to publish with people like Reverend Kathleen into our library. Alrighty, so what I wanted to also explain to you is that every single time you press play, it actually reshuffles, and that's really good from a neuroplasticity point of view. So for those of you who are particularly curious as to why we as human beings, we don't need to know more, we actually need to be able to apply what it is that we know. I'll give you an example. Someone who's diagnosed with diabetes might actually know that they need to change their diet and their lifestyle and reduce sugar consumption. But knowing that is not enough. You actually have to do it. You have to apply it. And most people can't or don't change because they actually have an identity and they have habits that are effectively about the types of foods that they consume, which could be high in what we would call the glycemic index. And so, in order to change our behaviors and our approaches to any subject in life, we actually need to be an upgraded and refined version of ourselves. I'm pretty sure it was Einstein who was credited with saying, if you don't change, nothing will change.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do the same thing as you've always done, you'll get the same result. So you actually have to be essentially transformed. But unless your identity is actually integrated into that transformation, none of the changes we try are enduring. And actually, they're very difficult because we have to actually kind of push against our natural way of being. And so, what we do in the Positive Prime community is we actually try to help you to understand what is it about humans and the way we change and why we won't change when we know we should change and why we can't change when we've already decided that we must change. And you will find all sorts of fantastic resources within the Positive Prime community. And also you'll see these gorgeous tiny little lessons inside the positivity feed. Now, some of you might be thinking to yourselves, surely access to Positive Prime is incredibly expensive because all of these very good quality scientific treatments or interventions are usually very expensive. We're doing our very best to provide everybody in Reverend Kathleen's community Positive Prime absolutely as a gift. So instead of paying $199 a year, you can actually click the link that she's providing, which is a special, unique link. It's only available in 2025 and or until the numbers run out. So we'll tell you she has 10,000 to give away. And once they've all been given away,
Mm-hmm.
then there's no more. So you can share the link with all the people you know, your friends, your colleagues, those in your faith communities. And everybody can have access to Positive Prime until the end of next year, 2026, absolutely as a gift. It does not mean that you have to renew at the end of 2026, December the 31st. You'll be given an invitation. You might choose to if it's been valuable. But what I you to do is take us up on this offer.
Please
right?
take her up on the offer. Yeah.
We
For
want the
your own
world.
sake.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know we want the world to be positively primed, but you know what? I want to be positively primed. And when you really understand the promise of positive prime and the potential for you, you'll want to positive prime as well. And it's so simple and easy. I mean, you literally create an account. You do that via Kathleen's link. So Reverend Kathleen is the only person who can give you her particular link.
Mhm.
And then you literally go through the process where you download the app after you have created the account on a web browser. So it's a very precise few steps. You click the link, it'll take you to a web browser. You create an account,
Mhm.
and then after that, you can download the app. And you can actually positively prime yourself every day, as many times a day as you like, until
Right.
the end of 2026. And you can see all sorts of areas of your life and of your personality change in very elegant and graceful ways.
And sometimes it's so subtle that people might think, oh, well, nothing's working. I don't feel any different or anything like that. But you know that the science is there that says it is working. And I know from having watched these, not always every single day, but I know I miss it when I don't. And that there's something about just the joy and the serenity that comes to me when I watch sessions, whether it's mine or somebody else's, doesn't matter. I'm often getting up and dancing to these things
Oh,
because
wow, I love it.
I love music so much. But some of them are very calm and peaceful and serene and just really to chill out with too. So, whatever you need during the day, it's there.
Do you know,
And it's just
sometimes,
3 minutes.
yeah, I know. Sometimes I'm actually like, oh, I really need to be energized and I need to be
Mhm.
motivated to go do my exercise and I'm not feeling
Right.
like it. There is actually a session called explosive energy.
Mhm.
When I'm really thinking to myself, oh, I don't need to be fit. I just want to be healthy. I don't really need to push myself with that exercise.
Mhm.
There's actually a session called Fabulously Fit.
Mhm.
When I'm feeling like I'm a little lost or I'm really trying quite hard to feel like God has my back, but I'm questioning that, I will
Mhm.
watch Reverend Kathleen's session. There are other sessions there that
Yeah.
really remind me and gently guide me back to the kinds of feelings that I could be feeling that give me then access to my own connection to the divine. I
Yeah.
think that that's the interesting thing. We're all these days knocked off course, right? All of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the consequences and the implications of that are actually really horrific. Um,
Yeah.
what's happening to cardiovascular systems? What's happening to immune systems? What's happening to, quite frankly, um, the dramatic rise in cognitive impairment? All of these conditions that society at large is facing
Yeah.
can actually be addressed by an integrated approach that does include positive prime. And positive
In-
prime will help you to actually choose all of the other lifestyle habits and engage in all of the practices that are actually great for you,
Mhm. Yeah.
right?
Uh, Just before we're recording this earlier this week, there was a mass shooting in this country and another one. And it involved a young adult and children at a worship service. And, to think that we have now a tool that can help people process this kind of horrific event, for one, but also potentially help that young adult potentially have a resource that can maybe, just maybe, help them not go down a road like that. And this person probably needed some other psychological counseling from the bits and pieces I'm hearing, but still, to have something at home in the days in between time and things like that, And for any of us, all it takes is one trip down the road these days, and and highway rage, road rage, and things can get activated, and our stress levels go up. And to have something like this so readily available, we don't have to go see a psychiatrist, psychologist, or chiropractor every time we have those feelings, or in the middle of a workday when somebody's calling and things just aren't working right, or the kids
No.
are at each other, and one more thing on top of the day. We have something at our fingertips.
And I'm thinking that everybody who's listening knows that when we are actually these lighthouses of inner peace and pure unlimited love and kindness and generosity, we actually then share that promise and potential, that possibility with everybody else we come in contact with. And so from my perspective, all of us can read all the statistics about how incredibly confronting anxiety and depression rates are, anger and frustration rates are, and what the effects of that are. But at the end of the day, no amount of knowing how bad it is actually going to change
Anything.
the trajectories.
No.
So we must go beyond knowing to doing and being ourselves. And I truly believe that positive prime, and of course the science now supports that, so the studies also help to reinforce and fortify what I'm saying. But I do truly believe that every moment that we dive into content that we've proven actually puts your brain into a state of flow, gives you access to more inner peace, resilience, resourcefulness, creativity, and you can be the positive force for change, even when you're feeling like, what good would that be? The problems that we face as global humanity, as society, they're too big. What good would that be? And I always think about that beautiful little story. A woman's walking along the beach and she sees a little starfish and it's stranded. And there are actually thousands of starfish she then starts to notice that are all stranded. And it looks like she will not have enough time to pick up each starfish and throw it back into the sea to save it. And some other people are walking in the other direction and they say, why bother, right? There's going to be so many starfish that die. And she says, well, I can matter to one. And I think if all of us were to matter just to one, we might actually create the chain reaction where all of us are mattering to more than one. That's the hope.
Yeah. I mean, what you were talking about with a smile, somebody comes in to, a supermarket or a store or something like that, and the clerk who's checking you out gives you a smile. That has power.
It does.
It has immense power. And if you're the one in line and give the person at the checkout a smile, that can change that person's day
Do
and
you know?
interaction with the next 16 people. And so it can be a chain reaction all the way down the
Totally.
system.
Reverend Kathleen and listeners, do you know I try this little experiment? Maybe you can too. I walk a trail. Americans sometimes call it hiking. Australians will just say, I'm going for a walk in the bush or in, a national park. I try to smile at everybody in the other direction who's advancing towards me and then walking past me. And do you know, I find that the more I smile, the more uncomfortable people are. We've become suspicious of that. And I think that is so incredibly sad. And so I just smile more. But what I know is that the retina in their eyes is processing that, sending messages to their brain, and their brain, even if they're not smiling, has started to produce more serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin and other endorphins that are very good for their health. And so I then want to be able to say to them, look, if you don't have a Kim Serafini walking in the other direction towards you every day, several times a day, then what you need is a positive prime session, because there are enough smiles in each and every single positive prime session to activate you, right?
Right.
Some of us aren't in environments where people are smiling at us. And so the intervention, the treatment that is positive prime is necessary, not just a nice to have. Now, we've spent quite a lot of time talking about smiles. I will tell you, as you use a positive prime session, you'll notice lots of other things. There is an equal representation of different people of races and religions and cultures and areas around the world and age
Mm-hmm.
groups and lots of different skills and strengths and gifts represented. There's lots of addressing, you know, our biases. There's lots of photographs of women doing non-traditional female gender identified things,
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. You'll also find that there's an enormous number of photographs of what we would call awe-inspiring, spectacular scenery, nature.
Mm-hmm.
So what we know
Yes.
is that when your brain processes images of nature, it changes the way that your immune system functions, and it's very good for you. You'll also notice that there's lots of images about what we call pro-social behavior. So there's a loneliness epidemic, and I'm sure you've all heard of that. And so our brains were wired in such a way, we have mirror like neurons. So when we see kindness and we see generosity and we see helpful behavior, it actually inspires that within us.
Right.
And we then have these reticular activating systems, the RAS, then goes in search of opportunities for us to be more generous, more helpful, more supportive. But interestingly enough, it also helps us to notice that we are actually more supported than we think we are. And
Mm-hmm.
so we do all sorts of these kinds of focus groups, and I've read all of these different studies where people actually feel alienated or isolated. But that's actually because their reticular activating system is not primed to notice how much assistance, how much guidance, how much support, how much care, how much help they're actually receiving in everyday life. And
Yeah.
if you're not aware of it, you're not acknowledging it, and you're not appreciating it, and therefore it's a kind of interesting state of affairs. We have to get everybody to wake up to the help that they are receiving in order
Yes.
for there to be a recognition of that and a ripple effect that occurs because of it that's actually great for all of us. Now, I've just shared with you only a few of the aspects of the formula. There are lots more. And so when you have an opportunity to actually download our ebook, do so. I think you'll find it fascinating. We
Yeah.
explain to you all sorts of things about the placebo effect, the nocebo effect. We explain who Dr. Robert Emmons is to us, who Dr. Barbara Fredrickson is to us, and what is the
Mm-hmm.
Broaden and Build theory. Um, why are positive emotions so necessary? And actually, what happens when we experience negative emotions? So there's all sorts
Right.
of beautiful ebooks for you to actually dive into that I think you'll find um, refreshing, refreshing
Mm-hmm.
if nothing else. I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, I think about the power it would be to. I know that there have been some people who are teachers who've used this in a classroom before school starts, and to think about using this in uh, like a senior center,
Totally.
or that kind of a setting. I think of my own mother. She could really benefit from this if I could get her to understand the technology to be able to use it. um some of those kinds of things, as to in hospitals, to have it be able to be in the hospital's TVs, the screens in the hospital, to be able to have people watch sessions and to be able to choose them. Um, all kinds of at the beginning of a worship service, all kinds of different places and times where we could share these and begin to have an impact on larger groups that we're part of, and as people think about that along the way. And what you said about, how what we see as far as what happens in the world. A dear mentor of mine, way back in the 1990s, before positive psychology even existed, said the way we choose to see the world creates the world we see. So when we choose to see all the negativity, when we choose to see and, fill our minds with all of that, that's all we're going to see. But we have
Hmm.
other choices. There are other things there, like positive prime, that can help us change and begin to notice, and see, and gratitude. What are we grateful for?
Well, Kathleen, most people wonder why we've actually invested so heavily in ensuring our software allows people to upload their own photographs, and it's so that
Mhm.
they can turn each and every session into an
Yeah.
experience like a gratitude journaling or a
Mhm.
gratitude inspiration. It reconnects somebody. So if you have these photographs of, the gifts that you've been given that are significant and meaningful to you, if
Right.
you've got photographs
Mm.
of your favorite flowers in your garden or on
Mm.
your porch or deck or, in a pot plant in your kitchen,
Mhm.
you take a photograph of anything that you appreciate, anything you're grateful for, anyone, you upload it into each positive prime session that you actually watch, and it literally triggers you for a cascade. And what
Mhm.
we know these things, like this is a remarkable fact. The more grateful you are, the more oxygen is available for cellular renewal out of your actual bloodstream, right? So
Mhm.
I could actually entertain you with hours of these little facts. Um,
Mhm.
but the point is that knowing that is not enough. You've got to do it. And so you
Right.
need these photographs of what you're grateful for. So when you're in a bad mood or you are sad or you are feeling lonely or there is
Yeah.
despair, all you do is press play and it will show these photographs to you of your blessings, of what life has
Mhm.
gifted you, of these
Right.
experiences that you can savor, and it will shift you in substantial measurable ways, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
the other thing is that we've got thousands of people in our community globally who actually use Positive Prime as a goal setting app or
Yes.
like a vision board app, right?
Right. Right.
So um, we also have lots of people, as you alluded to before, who are teachers. So I'm going to give you that example. Vary McGowan is a teacher of little children, and in her classroom, there are a few children who have special needs, and some
Mhm.
of them are relatively disruptive to the rest of the class members. And so, with parents' permission, as well as the school's administrative and principal's permission, she actually created an account that's just for the class,
Ah.
and she took photographs of the
Mhm.
children
Ah.
engaged in behavior where they were
Mhm.
being kind to each other. And so
Uh-huh.
what would actually happen is she uploaded all of these photographs of these children playing in friendly ways with each other, in respectful ways with each other. And
Mhm.
so every single day before the actual first lesson starts, she shows Positive Prime. Now she can mirror from the app to the screen. So she's a teacher. She knows how to do this.
Yeah.
Knowledge is actually very simple these days to mirror from the app. And so these children literally are captivated. And what Vary
Yeah.
noticed was their behavior changed so much. There was less disruption, there was more learning. And then we actually went into, there's a lot of great science around the way that positive prime sessions activate your implicit and explicit memory and how that actually does aid learning and development. And you
Mhm.
will learn more, retain more, and be able to recall more easily when you're in this positively primed state.
Yeah.
And so the implications for education and for children, not just children, maybe all of us as lifelong
For all of
learners,
us. Yeah.
is very, very, very important. But
Mhm.
obviously, we need all of you who are listening to click on Kathleen's link and to make sure that you go and create an account. It is available to you now. and you can positively prime yourself every single day, and you can
Right.
share Kathleen's link as far and as wide as you possibly can with as many people as
Please.
you like, right?
Yes.
Let's do this, and let's be positive change makers in the world, creating an absolutely remarkable ripple of love and purity and kindness and generosity and patience and happiness and resilience
Yes.
and creativity and hope and resourcefulness and loyalty and trustworthiness and faithfulness, right? It's up to us.
Yes. All of that, all of the above and even more. So, yes. And Kim, I, we could go on talking for a long time yet because
We could.
there's so much more that you could share with this. But
True.
I want to respect your time and the listeners' time too, the watchers' time. So there will be a link here somewhere, folks, to get that session and start enjoying it yourself, and then sharing it with all your family, with your friends, with people in your community, however you can do that.
Yeah.
Please.
Everyone you
Let
care about, everyone you
Yes,
care about deserves to be positively primed.
yes,
Everybody you care about deserves and is worthy of
right,
being positively primed. They will
yes,
benefit from it. There are advantages, and dive into our ebooks so that you can
mhm,
understand the science, the what, the why, the when, the how, the emotional upside, the psychological upside, the physical upside, the societal upside, quite frankly, the economic
the
upside as
upside.
well. I mean,
Mhm,
there's a lot to this very simple, beautiful 3-minute practice a day.
yeah, and you can watch for more than 3 minutes. There are
Oh,
ways to
yes,
do that. But all it takes is a basic 3 minutes. So,
that's true.
Kim, it has been truly. I love just sitting and talking with you because I always learn something more, and I just so believe in this process and what you have blessed this world with in positive
Thank you.
prime. So
Thank
thank you,
you.
thank you, thank you
Thank you.
so
Thank you.
very,
Thank
very
you. Thank
much
you. Thank you.
for being here and for being a part of the Tilted Halo today. So,
Thank you, Reverend Kathleen. Love you. Love
love
to
you too.
everybody. Blessings for you all.
Right. Bye. You've been listening to The Tilted Halo for women of faith who know we're not perfect, yet boldly lead anyway. If today's episode encouraged you, please like it, share it, and leave a comment. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss what's next. And for more tools, resources, and encouragement, visit me at KathleenAPanning.com. Until next time, keep leading boldly with faith, gratitude, and God's grace.